and welcome to our first session in our series on grief. I didn't announce yesterday what we were going to be kind of studying for our next series, but I figured that in the midst of the pandemic, in the midst of many people having to find a new way to experience grief, so to speak, it may be best to actually address the different stages of grief, to talk about grief and loss. So the lessons for the next 6 sessions will be on different stages of grief, everything from denial through acceptance and hope. So hopefully you all find this series helpful in coming to terms with whatever losses you may be feeling right now, whatever grief you might be feeling right now. As always, I invite you to leave comments in the comment section down below, either here on the Facebook page or later on the YouTube page if you are watching it there. For those of you that are following along in your own Bibles at home, we are in 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 8 through 37. As always, we do have a couple icebreaker questions to kind of loosen things up, as it were, and get us into the swing of things. So the first question is, who were the last visitors who you had stay at your home? The last visitors that Katie and I had in our home were her parents, I believe. I don't think we've had any guests since then. Yeah. Katie's parents came down around Labor Day last year and stayed with us for 4 or 5 days, something like that. So it's been a while, but nonetheless. What about you all? Who were the last visitors you had stay at your home? Let me know in the comments below. And the second question, as a child, whose visits did you look forward to the most? My paternal grandparents, specifically my grandfather. He and I were best buds. Whenever he came over, we would always play pool in the basement. He and I were best friends. So I think out of all the visitors we had, he was the one that I look forward to seeing the most. What about you all? Who did you look forward to seeing the most as a child? Let me know in the comments below. Again, our reading today is in 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 8 through 37. Listen now for the word of our Lord. One day Elisha went to Shunem, and a well-to-do woman was there who urged him to stay for a meal. So whenever he came by, he stopped there to eat. She said to her husband, "I know that this man who often comes our way is a holy man of God. Let's make a small room on the roof and put in it a bed and a table, a chair and a lamp for him. Then he can stay there whenever he comes to us." One day when Elisha came, he went up to his room and lay down there. He said to his servant Gehazi, "Call the Shunammite." So he called her, and she stood before him. Elisha said to him, "Tell her, you have gone to all this trouble for us. Now what can be done for you?" "Can we speak on your behalf to the king or the commander of the army?" She replied, "I have a home among my own people." "What can be done for her?" Elisha asked. Gehazi said, "Well, she has no son, and her husband is old." Then Elisha said, "Call her." So he called her, and he stood in the doorway. About this time next year, Elisha said, "You will hold a son in your arms." "No, my lord," she objected. "Don't mislead your servant, O man of God." But the woman became pregnant, and the next year about that time she gave birth to a son, just as Elisha had told her. The child grew, and one day he went out to his father, who was with the reapers. My head, he said to his father. His father told the servant, "Carry him to his mother." After the servant had lifted him up and carried him to his mother, the boy sat on her lap until noon, and then he died. She went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, then shut the door and went out. She called her husband and said, "Please send me one of the servants and a donkey, so I can go to the man of God quickly and return." "Why go to him today?" he asked. "It's not the new moon or the Sabbath." "It's all right," she said. She saddled the donkey and said to her servant, "Lead on. Don't slow down for me unless I tell you." So she set out and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. When he saw her in the distance, the man of God said to his servant Gehazi, "Look, there's the Shunammite. Run to meet her and ask her, 'Are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is your child all right?'" "Everything is all right," she said. When she reached the man of God at the mountain, she took hold of his feet. Gehazi came over to push her away, but the man of God said, "Leave her alone. She is in bitter distress, but the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me why." "Did I ask you for a son, my lord?" she said. "Didn't I tell you, don't raise my hopes?" Elisha said to Gehazi, "Tuck your cloak into your belt. Take my staff in your hands and run. If you meet anyone, do not greet him, and if anyone greets you, do not answer. Lay my staff on the boy's face." But the child's mother said, "As surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you." So he got up and followed her. Gehazi went on ahead and laid the staff on the boy's face, but there was no sound or response. So Gehazi went back to meet Elisha and told him, "The boy has not awakened." Then Elisha reached the house. There was the boy lying dead on his couch. He went in, shut the door on the two of them, and prayed to the Lord. Then he got on the bed and lay upon the boy, mouth to mouth, eyes to eyes, hands to hands. As he stretched himself out upon him, the boy's body grew warm. Elisha turned away and walked back and forth in the room, and then got on the bed and stretched out upon him once more. The boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Elisha summoned Gehazi and said, "Call the Shunammite." And he did. When she came, he said, "Take your son." She came in, fell at his feet, and bowed to the ground. Then she took her son and went out. This is the word of our Lord. Thanks be to God. This actually is a story I'm not familiar with, so this will be new for all of us, I guess. Hooray for learning stuff. Anyway, our first our first question for today is, what impresses you the most about the Shunammite woman? Her initiative, the way she uses her resources, her desire to serve, her hospitality, her focus, or her faith? I think for me, what impresses me most is her faith. She is faithful to Elisha. She is faithful to this man of God. So much so that she is telling her husband what to do in many cases. Something that is not very common. Usually it's the other way around. Usually it is wife being subservient to husband on the majority of cases. So the fact that she tells him, make this bedroom on the roof where he may stay, bring me a donkey that I may go to him, da da da. All to serve this man of God, all to be in service to him. I don't know, to me that speaks a certain level of reverence for the God of Jacob, the God of Abraham. So for me, I'd have to say her faith is what impresses me the most. What about you all? What impresses you the most about this Shunammite woman? Let me know in the comments below. Our second question, what was the woman really saying when she objects to what Elijah tells her in verse 16? So again, verse 16 is her saying, "No, my Lord, don't mislead your servant," in response to Elisha saying, "You will have a son, you will bear a child." So what is she saying? I don't believe it. This is too good to be true. Don't get my hopes up. I can't really believe this until it happens. For me, I would interpret it as it's too good to be true. The husband is getting older. He is getting beyond years of potency, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. He's getting older. He's not able to help her bear a son or a child as easily. So for someone to then come forward and say that sometime about this time next year, you will have a son in your arms, that sounds a little too good to be true. That sounds like a dream, not a reality, as it were. So to me, it speaks more to being too good to be true than, Elisha is lying to her and trying to get her hopes up, trying to disappoint her, something like that. What about you all? What do you make of it? What do you think she meant by saying, don't mislead your servant? Let me know in the comments below. Question number 3, what do you think the Shunammite woman told her husband and Elisha's servant Gehazi that things were all right? Or why do you think? Why do you think the Shunammite woman told her husband and Elisha's servant Gehazi that things were all right? She was in denial. She had to see Elisha and did not want to be delayed. She couldn't face her husband with the news. She had faith that God would heal her son. I feel like she was in denial. She was promised this. She was promised a child. She was promised a son. With that comes the hopes and dreams that they will grow up. They will start families of their own. They will continue the lineage. carry on the family trade, as it were. And now all of a sudden, this miracle child has been taken away. This seems like, just as the child seemed like a dream come true, this seems like a nightmare. She's in denial, potentially, that this is reality. Maybe this is just a bad dream. For me, I think it's a matter of she's in denial. She hasn't quite accepted that this is reality, this is actually happening. That's my interpretation, though. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. Why do you think she told Elisha's servant and her husband that everything was all right? Number 4. Why did God allow Elisha to raise the boy from the dead? Because Elisha wanted to repay the woman, because the woman had faith, because of Elisha's faith, or something else? I don't know. That's a good question. Definitely the woman has faith. She came to a man of God for help. In a means saying, I know that your God can help me. Please help me. Tell me what I must do to appease this God that I might have my son back. So, could be faith. Definitely Elisha has faith. I don't really see it so much as Elisha wanting to repay the woman. There's nothing to me that really hints at that. But that's just me. What do you all think? Why do you think God allowed Elisha to raise this boy from the dead? Let me know in the comments below. Number 5, when you are faced with a distressing experience, where do you generally turn? To family, to God, to church, or somewhere else? I turn to God, I turn to family, I turn to friends. Basically, I turn to all areas of my support group as much as I possibly can. I turn to God for answers as to why is this happening, how does this fit into this divine plan. I turn to family and friends for more immediate comfort, for not bearing this cross alone, as it were. So, that's my answer. What about you all? When something happens, where do you all turn for kind of help in distressing times? Let me know in the comments below. Question number 6. The woman had shown great hospitality to Elisha. Who in your life has regularly opened up their home to you? Definitely one of the congregants here at the church, also an elder. Whenever we're going for a walk and walking the dog by her house, she's generally very inviting with saying, come on in, let's chat for a while, I'll get you some water. She lets our dog play with her dogs. Whenever Katie and I go away, she welcomes our dog into her own home. She's very helpful. She's very hospitable and welcoming. She's the first person that comes to mind. Definitely our parents, if we are in town, if we need somewhere to stay, they're more than willing to have us over. So, yeah, That's my response. What about you all? Who in your life has regularly opened up their home to you? And why? Let me know in the comments below. Number 7, how can you relate to this Shunammite woman? I have had a loved one die in my arms. God has performed a miracle in my life. I've hidden my pain from others. I've waited for years for a child. I'm afraid of getting my hopes up for a child. I've resented God for giving me someone only to take them away. I've been pretending everything is all right. Thankfully, I really can't relate. I think for me, it's my having hidden my pain from others. Middle school, high school, college, even a little bit of seminary. I was very closed off in terms of my emotions. I had been hurt a number of times in my adolescence, and I had gotten it in the back of my mind that I need to be strong. Strong men don't cry. I need to push past it. I need to basically be this lone wolf. So I bottled it up. I basically shut my emotions off in the presence of others and was just devoid of emotion for the most part, which in some cases unfortunately backfired. Eventually the pressure built up and I might just boil over or be so overrun with sadness that I physically could not get out of bed in a morning or something like that. And I would have to force myself out of bed to eat, to get schoolwork done, whatever it was. Thankfully, that's not the case anymore. Thankfully, I'm much more open about my emotions, but at one point in time, I could definitely relate to the Shunammite woman and kind of hiding my pain from others, pretending that everything is all right, when it definitely wasn't. What about you all? How can you relate to the Shunammite woman? Let me know in the comments below. Last question, as always, is how can this group pray for you? As always, if you have prayer requests, please feel free to leave them in the comments section below. Send me an email, give me a phone call, whatever means of communication you prefer. I would love to pray with you, pray for you. I am here for you all, first and foremost. So that is our lesson for today on denial. Tomorrow we will be talking about anger. So I hope to see you all here tomorrow. Stay well, stay safe, and God bless. Until then.